A special interview coming up. Hi, I'm Allie Cook. Today's November 9th, 2016, and this is your Wednesday Watch. Here's today's dental news. Today, I'm joined by a special guest, Dr. Michael Davis. We're going to talk about the problems and solutions for dentists involved with corporate healthcare. Dr. Davis, thank you so much for joining us. We have a lot to get to. You say that dentists are in trouble with corporate healthcare. Can you tell us more?
Absolutely. I first want to thank you, Allie, for being interviewed with you, and your audience is super, and connecting with them is just, it's a privilege for me. These are my colleagues. These are my brother and sister dentists. These are my age. They are my sons and daughters. All right. We can't have them getting hustled and scammed and deceived and misrepresented too. And that is too often the order of the day. These people are getting hurt. Many of our young grads, they're getting hurt. They're being deceived. And with the student loan debt being what it is today, many of these docs are in very, very vulnerable positions. They need a helping hand. They need the truth. And often they're not getting it. They're isolated. They feel alone.
So what is the truth?
Well, the truth is, you better look, if you get into any deal with any of these corporate entities, or even a small practice, dental practice, look over the contract. Give that contract for review competent legal representation. Oh, I can't do that. They may take it the wrong way. I might offend some. No, you're swimming with the sharks. You better have that reviewed. And when I say competent legal representation, I'm talking your local attorney who may do divorce cases. They may do personal injury cases. No. This is a specialty. These contracts have got a lot of traps in them, and you need attorneys who are very familiar with these types of employment contracts, or perhaps if you're a selling dentist, a purchase and sales agreement with a DSO, or if you're in the situation of being I'm going to call it a nominee owner, because most of these owners with the DSO industry are not true owners under the legal definition. You are going to be a nominee owner, and you're going to be potentially subject to certain liabilities. You better get a good heads up of what's going on, because many of these docs have been called into depositions. They've faced liabilities. You don't want to be in that spot.
There's a lot of legal action right now. Can you tell us about the case in Ohio?
Well, the case in Ohio is very, very sad. And I'm going to use the word allegedly, because until something is proven in a court of law, we don't want to overstep our bounds. But we have a former chairman of the state of Ohio Dental Board, and he's the chief operating officer of a major teaching hospital in Cleveland. And allegedly, if you read the formal indictment, it's close to 100 pages. It reads like an organized crime novel with racketeering and a crew of thugs. And what they were doing, one of the things, they were shaking down some of our recent grad dental residents, shaking them down for cash money for positions on this residency program. Not good. Also getting free labor for these docs working in the private clinics, the crew of this particular doctor. It's very ugly stuff. These docs were primarily foreign nationals. They need a green card to work and keep their dental license. Very vulnerable positions, and are getting hustled and scammed. And thank goodness the FBI came forward. It's conducting this investigation, but there's far more to it than what I just stated here. We can't be just. This is a national treasure. Many of these docs are going to have the American dream, want to go through the system the proper way. Many are going to become U.S. citizens in the future. These are good, solid doctors. They're going to be an asset to our communities, and we got to be looking out for them. Our profession needs to be looking out for them.
What do dentists need to know about DSOs as we go into the new year?
Well, it depends on your situation. Are you selling a practice? Are you looking for employment? Um, I'll give you one where, well, this guy's my fishing buddy and he's my duck hunting buddy. And he came to me with a handshake and uh, he would put me in a position where I'd own these dental clinics. But he was my buddy. Well, this buddy put him in a position where he's liable for ownership when he has absolutely no control of anything. No monies were exchanged. Um, it's just a horrible situation where then there's investigations on these clinics. It was not a pretty sight, and all on some handshake deal. This doc had no control on the bank accounts, how the practices were run, and yet his name was the name filed with state authorities, regulatory authorities, as the owner. Well, in this day and age, owner is just, it could be a figurehead, it's a shell company. Owner doesn't mean a whole lot.
In your opinion, is it even worth it to go into business with these organizations?
The sad fact is, Allie, that so many of my colleagues, especially my junior colleagues, they've got few options. They've got over $250,000 in debt. They're not creditworthy to buy a practice or to buy into a practice. They're in a tough pickle. And here these slick Wall Street types come along, and here's this greatest opportunity since sliced bread. You're going to love it. You're going to do great. And the verbiage does not match the reality. You can't trust the verbiage, what they say. These are not your friends. These are not your colleagues. They're in a tough pickle. And it's like, pardon my French, if you either eat a merde sandwich or you go hungry, that's a tough position to be in.
It sounds like it really is a tough situation and that young dentists may not have much of a choice. So the message is, if you're going to go into it prepared.
You better be cautious, but you, like I say, have sound legal counsel. Look over those contracts with that good legal counsel, one that's very familiar with healthcare contracts, especially with the DSO industry. There's a number of attorneys out there who will represent you with your interests in mind. The management of the DSO, no, they don't have your interests in mind. They don't have the patient's interest in mind the way you do, doctor, right? That's an important factor here. The way our system works, our capitalistic system works, which is fine. I'm a capitalist, fine. The way it works is those companies, they must generate profits. Their primary obligation is to generate profits for their shareholders. That's imperative. That's what their job is. They've got to have quarterly returns. They've got to show numbers. Now, doctor, your primary responsibility, not just through the ADA code and ethics, but through numbers of court decisions, your primary obligation, doctor, is to the patient's best interest. Why is that? Because and the courts have ruled on this, there's a great disparity between your knowledge and the patient's knowledge. It's a very doctor-patient relationship, which is a contract. There's a great deal of disparity in that contract. Therefore, you must hold the patient's interest to the fore. So the conflict of interest between your obligations, doctor, and the corporation's interests, that's a conflict of interest. It cannot be, held in the same, level playing field. That's a huge tightrope to walk.
Those are good words of advice. I'm sure many of our viewers appreciate your words. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
There's people looking out for you. Docs, you're not alone. You're not in isolation. There's advisors out there. There are good attorneys out there. Prevention is key before you get into these contracts. Please get yourself some good legal representation. Many of these contracts can now be reviewed, employment contracts, by ADE services if you're associated with organized dentistry. I hope that many of you are. So much of what's going on, we're only going to change from the bottom up. What's going on from the top down is not pretty. But I want you young doctors to get involved. You are the future. You're going to change this profession and change it for the better. And we need you. Thank you.
Dr. Davis, this has been a very interesting conversation, and we look forward to learning more from your upcoming article in Dentistry Today in 2017. Thanks again for joining us today. And thank you for checking out the Wednesday Watch. Stay tuned next week with more news from Dentistry Today and DNN.